Yeah, I think, like we've talked about with a couple of these already, Brandon falls very much in the group of players that we have that we feel like, getting some certainty around what the future is going to look like is very important for us in terms of building a roster and keeping this team together for as long as we can, in this case, potential of 2 more years. And we feel like these things are important for us and, like I've said before, the fans to know that guys are going to be here, and Brandon's one of the bright young pitchers we have that have come up through our system and have come onto the major league level, and as we know, it's a very tough position to do that in this league as a starting pitcher, and he's done a great job over the last couple of years. There's been some really big highlights for sure, but the consistency that he brings to the table from a work ethic and a makeup and innings eating, even at a young age standpoint, is something that we value tremendously.
When did this really get going?
Probably a little later in the process because we didn't, while there was some uncertainty around role, we knew how we felt about Brandon. We felt like with the potential of where the roles may end up, we didn't want to use that as sort of a bargaining position. We wanted the competition in spring training to sort itself out. So probably shortly after we sort of set the rotation and he was in it.
And for Brandon, what's kind of your reaction to this? Why does this make a lot of sense for you?
Yeah, I think when you look, ever since we got drafted in 2020, my wife and I, we've loved Arizona. We've loved everything about it, whether that be in the clubhouse and outside the clubhouse. We're just happy to be here longer and extend that stay a little longer. And like I said, we've loved every minute of it and just wanted to make that a little longer.
Saw kind of a parade of guys congratulating you, older guys, but then the younger guys, the core guys that you've come up with. What does that mean to you, and especially to be with a lot of those guys?
Yeah, I think we've always had that young core coming up through the minors. We've all stuck together, and we've added some veteran leadership the past few years to tack in on that, and I think that goes a long way. So we're excited for what the future holds, and there's a lot to look forward to.
So was that a big factor for you, just seeing the other young teammates getting extended to say, I want to be part of this for as long as possible?
For sure. I think hopefully I'm not the only one, and I think we can move on and come up together and keep building a good team here and a good relationship in the clubhouse and take that onto the field.
How hard has it been the last few days to kind of keep this under your hat?
Pretty hard. Coming into the clubhouse last 2 days, not knowing who knew, who didn't know, looking them in the eyes, like that's what I was trying to figure out. Do you know? So it was tough, but I'm happy it's out now, and we can all move on, have a good year.
Did you swear your family to secrecy a few days ago?
Yeah, I didn't know about my dad. That was the tough one I didn't know if his lips would be sealed or not, but apparently they were.
He kept it quiet.
What's that?
He kept it quiet.
He did.
He just tweeted about it, but other than that.
Yeah, now he can do whatever he wants.
Mike, I feel like Brandon probably hasn't had the sort of season statistically that you guys believe he's capable of. Did you feel like this was the kind of game you kind of needed to do now to make sure that maybe it wouldn't be available to you?
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly the calculus that you have to take. There's risks in these things on both sides in the sense of like when is the right time to do it. If he puts together a season that we know he's going to have, like it just changes the calculus. We may still get it done. It's just going to change some of the calculus for us. And there's a benefit to us doing this earlier, letting him pitch free of mind and going out there and putting this behind him that, these guys play treacherous positions. We talked about it, catching and others. It's a hard game. There's a lot of risk factors in it, but having that freedom in his mind, you get a big bonus as a draft pick. Like he was deep in that draft in 2020, and I had a guy in Kentucky the next year come up to me and be like, hey, you got my boy from Bellarmine. And I was like, who did we get? And I forgot about Bellarmine, so I didn't know who it was. And he's like, Brandon Pfaadt. And I was like, oh yeah, we really like that guy. He was an A-ball, and then he blew through the system at that point in the time. And then My niece Tess is really the one that made me do this deal. She worships the ground that Brandon walks on. She didn't want him to get married. She was unhappy that he got married. She tried to break the marriage up, but I think now she's happy that he got this extension. But yeah, there's always a balance to how these things get done, and I think when there's shared risk on both sides, that's when you have the best opportunity to get those things done. I think the way he goes out there and pounds the zone, or he's refining his stuff and hauls innings, there's a huge value to period. I mean, that is a skill set in this game today, with the way pitch counts get ratcheted up on guys and what it does to the pen and all those things that we talk about. So he has shown those things, which we very much value, and he's going to keep putting it together as he gets older and matures.
Did you feel like this season last year maybe wasn't representative by the statistics? Like, did you feel like he maybe pitched better than a guy with
I mean, look, there were definitely a couple of games we talk about. You go back to that St. Louis game where, I mean, that game was going to be over in an hour and 47 minutes, and he was just blowing right through them and hit a hiccup in the fifth or something, and the game kind of unraveled on us a little bit. But, you know, you look at that game, and it's hard not to be super excited coming out of the game for what he was doing, and he had a bad inning. And I think young players can have bad innings at times, and I think the veteran guys find ways to minimize it a little quicker. Just like the hitters we talk about, they're all going to still have slumps. It's minimizing the slumps. That's what happens with maturity, and that's going to, yes. But what we see in those flashes is very real and very much what we believe in.
Brandon, was there anybody you talked to kind of get a feel for whether you thought this would be a good idea, allowing him to pitch more freely, or any teammates, anybody like that?
No teammates. I just talked with my agents, and they had great advice moving forward. I didn't really know how the process would go, and they were great, and they were very transparent with me, and kind of guided me through it the last week or so.
Speaking of teammates, did they get you lined up for New York steakhouses already?
That's what they were joking about already, so I'll figure that out if it was a joke or not. Probably not.
It's not a joke.
No,
it's not a joke.
I guess there's three of us.
Yeah, they got to spread it
The
around.
entire bullpen came out.
Yeah, apparently.
So you've got 3 starters and Mike now locked up for at least a couple of years. How does that impact your 2 guys that are free agents after this season?
It doesn't, you know, I mean, the dynamics around where everybody is in the cycle of their career, like they're all different, you know. Each one of these situations or circumstances is different. Well, we're going to address that as we continue to move through, whether that be like in the off season or whatever. We're going to have to deal with what our future rotation's looking like. The focus for right now on the guys that are here is on the 2025 season and having the best season that we can and focus on that. And those things are going to work themselves out in time, you know. None of this stuff really, I don't know what the impact's going to be just yet. We don't do these things to like lock something else off or not be able to do something else. So I don't think that's the case in these things.
Sure. Brandon, how did you kind of weigh the decision? I guess you could have tried to wait and bet on yourself a little bit more, but it's also life-changing money. How did you sort of weigh it?
Yeah, I think you got to think of the peace of mind that it brings, and now I'm able to go out there and compete every 5th day with like I said, the peace of mind, and go out there and go do my job. So I think that had a big play in it, and there's a lot of things we can avoid later on, and just move on and go out there and compete.
Mike, how much did the way Brandon handled the postseason run weigh into this decision for you?
You know, postseason it's not really a huge factor, honestly. It's you know he was awesome, but it's not in this process. It's not really, you know, it's more of the evaluation over 162 games and what the next 162 games is going to look like. You know, the playoffs. I've said this before. There is a feather in their cap to the guys like, you know, Brandon, and Alec Thomas, and Ginkel, and others that have, you know, really, you know, stepped up in those moments. That's not something we take for granted. We always talk about what's player X going to do when the lights are shining brightest. We don't have an answer for that. We start to get some of those answers, and we got some of those answers in that case. But the percentage of games you're going to play in those moments versus the percentage of games you're going to play during the regular season, it's you know, this is more about that than it was the playoffs.